8 seasons of this crap! Ah, for Christ's sake.
Hello, welcome everyone to the VMX Show. That's right, it's the VMX Show. This is the VMX Show. Season 8, Episode 6. We're halfway through the season, and I got a great show for you all. Probably be kind of a bit of a smaller show here. By that, I don't mean smaller in terms of awesomeness. I just mean shorter because I don't have a guest today. But what I do have is your questions and comments. I have some news, and of course we have the sales charts to go through. So let's get to your questions and comments from last week's episode. Alright, I like funny videos. 505 posts, "Hey NecroVMX, I'm only a subscriber for several months, so I apologize for not catching up a lot more often." You don't have to apologize for that. Take your time. Got a few questions. Number 1, who is the most annoying video game character? I don't know. I don't think of these things. Number 2, is every urban legend of video gaming bullshit? No, not all of them, just most of them. Number 3, are you a horror movie fan? The reason why was because I've seen your movie reviews. Well, then you already know the answer to that. That's quite silly. No, I'm not a horror movie fan. I only do fucking 10 horror movie reviews every Halloween because I'm torturing myself. What kind of fucking question is that? Alright, moving on. S-Serpent21 says, EA are a bunch of evil assholes. May they mow the lawn of Kazareth Studios one day and pay you and Tanya $1 an hour because they suck and should be destroyed. That's funny, but why? I don't quite understand the logic of it. Why would they be paying us to mow our lawn? I'm just imagining a bunch of EA guys like, "Hello, sir. We're from Electronic Arts. Can we mow your lawn?" And, no thanks. We got it covered. "Oh, please, I'll pay you $1. And he says, "Hey, Necro, do you hope to see Kotal get so big that comic series like Dorkly pick up on and make episodes about the characters? I think it would be great to see Cecil and Rosa meet Magus and Ziri." I would love to see that. Dorkly hasn't done anything in a long time. I don't know what's gone on with them, but they haven't made a new video since Ice World Problems. And that was ages ago. He says, "P.S. Having played the game, you and Tanya are right. Ziria would definitely have a place on my favorite women characters in gaming list that I made last year. She rules. Thank you and have a great day." Well, thank you, and I'm glad you enjoyed the game. Did you beat it? You got to let me know. Hit me up on Skype. David Wayne says, "Hey, Necro, what is your favorite cartoon series based on a comic book? Also, great show as always." I don't know why people think I go around watching cartoons all the time. You guys realize I'm 33 years old. I don't know, like, I'm thinking back in the day, like, the X-Men cartoon was pretty good. The Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the 2003 one was very good. I don't know. I don't think of these things. Let's see. And what was the other question? Oh, no other question. He says, also great show as always. All right. Tim5 says, Disturbed is not broken up. They just went on hiatus in 2011. That amounts to the same thing, okay? That means they're broken up. Don't split hairs with me. It's just a pointless exercise. Poofnisse says, 2 questions. What are you hoping for in the next Super Smash? Which will probably be your main in the new Super Smash? What's your favorite character on that 70s show? Mine in Leo. I think you mean mine is Leo. Well, that's 3 questions, not 2. What I'm hoping for it to be awesome. Main character, I don't know, I gotta try him out, you know, like, I never would have been able to tell you that my main guy in Brawl would be Meta Knight until I played it. Like, I'm thinking, like, oh, I can't wait to play as Mega Man. But I don't know if he's going to be any good. As for favorite character in that 70s show, I got to go with Hot Donna there because of the, there's 2 reasons, and I'm sure you can probably guess what those 2 reasons are. Almighty Santa says, "Sorry about last time. I wrote that last comment in a hurry." I love when people reference, like, the last comment they made like I remember it. Anyway, here's my question. Which of the big 4 of Thrash has the greatest body of work? For me, it's Slayer, because in my opinion, they only released one stinker of an album. Megadeth could come in second, then Metallica, then Anthrax. So that's an interesting question. Normally, I'd say Megadeth, but I don't really like their new album. So that's, and that's their second clunker, because they had, first they had Risk, and then they have this new one, which I can't think of the name of it off the top of my head, but it's terrible. I like to refer to it as Risk 2. Metallica, the only album they ever released that I really hated, absolutely hated, was Lulu. I wasn't a huge Reload fan. A lot of people like to point the finger at Saint Anger. I think it was a good album. I don't really see why it was so bad. I know a lot of people were kind of, dodgy about the production on that one, but, overall, I mean, like Metallica, I blame Lou Reed for Lulu, and Reload, it was mostly B-sides anyway. Anthrax, they had a couple of weird ones, but I really like their newer stuff. That latest album was awesome. Slayer, I gotta say, Slayer and Megadeth would probably be tied for number one because, like, Slayer, like you said, they don't really release anything bad, generally speaking, though I like Megadeth more, so there you have it. I'm interested to hear what you think is the stinker of an album from Slayer, because there's really no Slayer albums that I really hate. Just maybe some that I'm like, it's alright, Alright, the Game Rage one says, "Hey Necro, I'm really enjoying your Let's Fail Volcar the Viking videos. It looks like a great game. I've always been a huge fan of Vikings, barbarians, Norse mythology, and sword and sorcery. Are you into that kind of stuff too?" Probably not as much as you are, although I do find it interesting. I think it's a great tableau to make a video game out of, that's for sure. Okay, let's see. The Evil Adventurer says, "Do you like the James Bond films?" Oh, you must be new. Of course I like the James Bond films. You see the sheer amount of content I have on my channel about it? It says, "If so, which ones are your favorites?" For me, it's On Her Majesty's Secret Service, Casino Royale, and Skyfall. Actually, those are probably the three that I would pick. I would also add in From Russia with Love, which is a great one. Slayer Darth. "Hey, Necro. Great episode as always. Some more questions." And he'd give me 6 numbered questions. Some of them kind of long, so this should be interesting. Number 1, you mentioned that you were of Italian heritage in the last episode. Partly so. I want to interject there. Partly so. On my mother's side, there is it. I'm a mutt. I really am a mongrel in terms of that, in case anybody's wondering. On my mother's side, there is a bit of Anglo, and there's also Italian, Sicilian to be specific. And then on my father's side, it's all Hispanic, but it's not just like one. Like I self-identify as Puerto Rican, but there's other bits of Hispanic, like there is actual Spaniard in there somewhere. And there's also Taino, which is the native Puerto Rican. So, I really am a mutt. So, I just wanted to point that out. But let me read the rest of this. "And I know that your parents, if I remember correctly, are Catholic." I actually want to jump in again there. They are sort of lapsed Catholic, like as Dennis Leary would say. They're non-practicing. I think my parents is like, we believe in God, but whatever. They haven't gone to church in like decades, so I don't think that you could really call them Catholic. They haven't had a confession. I don't know. They were raised Catholic, but I really don't think of religion that often. It's not a subject that's on my mind. So, and my parents really don't think of religion all that much. They just sort of like believe in this vague sense of, there's probably a God, and I'm the opposite. But none of us really. There are members of my family that are a little bit more religious, but for the most part, not so much. And he says, "Do you reckon it's a cultural thing?" I ask because I know there are a lot of Irish Americans who are Catholic, of the Catholic faith, and obviously Roman Catholicism is by far the main religion in Italy. Well, of course, it's, and part of it is just, location. The Vatican is nestled right there in Italy. So, I know it's its own sovereign nation. People don't have to tell me that, that's obviously, but it's completely surrounded by Italy. So, for all intents and purposes, yes, it is in Italy. So, of course, the predominant religion is Catholicism. I mean, if the Vatican was in, I don't know. Let's. What would be funny? If the Vatican was in Iceland, then you'd hear Icelandic Catholic all the time. All right. Let's see. Number 2. Can you do a great impression of a typical wise guy? I don't know. I've done that, but I'm not going to do it for you. I really don't. Like, what would you want me to say? I mean, I could do a pretty good impression. I know how those guys talk. But, see, the thing is, like, if I was to do an impression of a typical wise guy, it would just sound like some dude to you, because they don't talk like they do in the movies. Trust me. I know this. They don't act like that. When I lived in Brooklyn, I lived next door to a guy who was obviously connected to, this thing of ours. So, I'm going to just move on from there. And he wasn't like I don't want to move on. I want to talk about that. He wasn't like a Tony Soprano or anything like that. He didn't act like Joe Pesci. So I'm just saying. All right, number 3. What is the most you've ever spent on video game memorabilia? Zero amount of dollars. I don't buy video game memorabilia. I buy video games. I see those kind of videos where people are showing off their video game swag, you know, like on GameSack or Happy Console Gamer or whatever, and I think to myself, you know, that's cool. That's cool. I ain't got nothing against it, but that's money better spent on actual games, in my opinion, for me. Number 4, if Tanya was sick again and you needed someone to cover for her as co-host, I assume you mean for List Critics, and your two choices were James Rolfe and Patrick Stewart, please bear in mind that complete suspension of disbelief is necessary, who would you choose? Well, I'd love to have them both, but if I have to pick one, I gotta say Patrick Stewart, because I would imagine that, I don't know, like, James Rolfe is a little bit too much like me, so it would be like two versions of me. Then again, Tanya's like me, so I don't know. But I always say that Tanya is the star of List Critics. Because, alright, I'll tell you the story. And I don't think I've ever really talked about this, but when we let Jesse go, and, you know, it's kind of like he misses being on the show and everything, but he couldn't be reliable. We had to find somebody, I had to find somebody who was going to be there every month and not, you know, skive off, so to speak. And, you know, he did it again, and it was like, oh my fucking god, you know, and that's when I got Carissa to come on as sort of a guest host, and she didn't, like, click with the show. You know, I was really grateful to her for doing that as a favor, and she's been on since, when Tanya was sick, Carissa offered to do it, and that's like, she's great in the sense that I could always count on her to do it if Tanya's not available, or if something happens or whatever. But she doesn't click with the audience the way Jesse did. So then, you know, I was going through these tryouts, and then Tanya, like, I had these early concerns about Tanya and the List Critics, that she was too much like me, because part of what I think made Armageddon Time such a great co-host was that he would disagree with me on occasion, and we'd get into these like little like silly arguments and shit, you know, and it was all in good fun. Nobody was fighting, nobody was looking to kick each other's asses or anything. There was no hurt feelings. But and he got that he was sort of playing a character in a sense, like when we'd argue about Earthbound and whatnot. Like, people still come to him and they think he loves Earthbound, and he doesn't. He thinks it's okay. He doesn't think it's a great game. But he says that to me. He says, people still come up to me about that. Because he was playing the contrarian, which worked really good. And Tanya doesn't do that, but Tanya's personality did click with the audience, and people really liked her. So and I always say she's kind of the star. Even though I'm the host and she's the co-host, she's the star. So, like James Rolfe, like, I know he plays, like, unless he was playing a character, like, he's just sort of like a regular guy, really. Patrick Stewart is larger than life, though. And I've been a huge fan of his since I was a kid, so I would have to pick Patrick Stewart. And I spend all that time on such a silly question. Let's move on. Number 5. I'm a big fan of wheeler-dealer characters. They're big here in the UK. These are sorts of characters who are self-made businessmen and try to pass themselves off as being a higher social status than they actually are. Are there examples of these characters in American fiction, particularly on the screen? I tried to look for examples, but it's been difficult. Really? Really? Wow, okay. They're all over the place. I can't give you a specific example because there's millions. I don't know. All right, I'm going to move on because he goes on and on and on and on and on about that, and I so don't care. But I mean, that's like a pretty typical. You know what I would recommend? I would recommend you look over on TV Tropes. Okay, there's a character you mentioned, Arthur Daly. Reminder: put his name into TV Tropes. See what comes up. Find the right trope, and you'll find millions of examples. Well, not millions, but thousands of examples. Number 6, how did you originally get into graphic design? Did it start at school? No. Absolutely not. You know, kind of a funny story. I got Photoshop because I was making like those like cat pictures, you know? And fucking, I don't know, I was goofing off with it, and I got good with it eventually. I mean, if you sit there and mess around with Photoshop long enough, you'll eventually start to get some sort of skill with it, because all it really is it takes practice. You know, it takes a lot of practice, but it takes practice. All right, moving on. Aaron Sahito says, what's the best Casino Royale Swede you've ever seen? I have no idea what you're talking about. I keep seeing this word Swede pop up. What the hell? I mean, to me, a Swede is a person from Sweden. And I just looked it up. And according to Wikipedia, I mean, a Swede is a resident or citizen of Sweden, a member of the Swedish people, a rutabaga, and there's a bunch of people who have Swede as a nickname. I have no idea what you're talking about. Casino Royale Swede. I keep hearing this in relation to James Bond, and I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? I don't know what a Swede is, alright? Other than a Swedish person. Alright, Slayer Darth left me this is the end of it. Left me 2 comments more, because I just got done 6 questions. There's actually 14, so let me go through this. He says, by the way, regarding Pointless, I forgot to point out that it isn't at all like Jeopardy. What are you talking about? What? I don't even know what you're talking about, Pointless. Wait, what? Why are you explaining some game show to me? Whatever, man. I'm going to get to the questions. Number 7. What is the most controversial film you have ever seen? Well, I guess, I don't know. I guess probably The Passion of the Christ. I saw that. It was controversial. There you go, is your answer. Number 8. What is your favorite detective show and or who is your favorite fictional detective? I don't know what qualifies. I liked Law and Order. That was a good show. And Lenny Briscoe was my favorite guy on there. So there you go. Number 9. What is the most unreadable list you have ever submitted to... I don't submit lists, but... list critics. I don't know. There were a couple of really bad ones. I think that one, like, top 10 problems with the world was really ridiculous. That's off the top of my head, you know. Number 10. Do you have a Kindle or an e-reader? The second part of the question, do you prefer to have books in digital format or on paper or as paper? Personally, I prefer to have them in digital format because they're easier to transport and they cannot get damaged. I do have a Kindle. I haven't used it in like a really long time, but I do have a Kindle. I just don't have time to read, you know? And here's the thing. I kind of agree with you in the sense that, you know, there is a lot to be said for having this little... you know, thing in your hand that has like whatever amount of books, and that you have all your books in one spot, and that they all sort of exist on the cloud, you know. But then again, you know, there is something to be said for having the actual physical book. So I kind of see it both ways, but I do prefer the e-reader. All right, number 11. Out of all the games you played thus far, which one would you say has the most impressive enemy AI? Civilization 5, if you crank the difficulty up really high. Although it does rely somewhat on cheating, because the AI does cheat at the high difficulties. But it does have pretty good AI if you crank it up. Not if you crank it up all the way. If you crank it up all the way, it's just a pure cheater engine. But, you know, around difficulty 5 or 6, it starts to get good. Number 12, are you going to watch the 2014 BAFTAs? No, why would I? Seriously. Award shows are a waste of time anyway, really, to be honest with you. I mean, I never watch award shows. I find out who won the next day on the internet. And the BAFTAs, it's like, who fucking cares, you know? I mean, whatever. Number 13, do you drive a car? If so, what is the make and or model? Of course I drive a car. I fucking work for a living. What do you think a Segway or a fucking, like, dune buggy? Like, what the fuck do you think? Of course I drive a car. It's a Kia. That's all I'm telling you. And number 14, apart from video games, what are some of your other prominent interests? Wow. I feel like I'm filling out a fucking personal ad here. It's kind of ridiculous, but... don't you already know from the channel what I'm interested in? You know, movies... is one of them. I mean, come on, it's pretty obvious. I'm just gonna stop here. I had enough of the questions. It's enough. Please, I like a lot of questions. It's just right now it's enough. I'm gonna stop here. Please send me your questions and comments. You can. Easiest way is to just leave them right on this video. You can PM them to me if you really want to, but easiest way is to just leave them as a comment on this video that you're looking at, or at least listening to right now. You're probably not looking at Senior Trollface there. You can only look at him for so long. Anyway, I don't have a guest this week, so let's get to the news. Alright, wanted to talk very briefly about Nintendo Direct. They released a latest Nintendo Direct. Mario Kart 8 was shown off with a new trailer. We haven't seen that since E3 of last year. Looks like 7 new characters in there. All of the Koopalings were shown. That's pretty cool. So check that out. Super Smash Brothers was shown with a new fighter, Little Mac from Punch-Out. That looks pretty awesome. Can't wait to play as him. I think that's going to be pretty cool. And they showed off some new videos of games like X and whatnot. So you might want to check that out. You can get it on your 3DS, Wii U console, or you can just watch it on YouTube. Lightning Returns Final Fantasy XIII may be the end of Final Fantasy XIII, but not the end of the character. According to Motomo Toriyama, he recently spoke to Silicon Era in an interview where he said he likes the character a lot, and she may show up as a guest character in future Final Fantasy games. This is what he said. For Lightning, her story ends here in Lightning Returns Final Fantasy XIII, as this game is meant as a finale to this series. But we know that Lightning is an extremely popular character even when compared to other Final Fantasy characters, so there is a possibility that Lightning would appear in other future Final Fantasy titles, not as a protagonist, but as a guest character. So I don't know, Kingdom Hearts, tactics game, another theater rhythm, Dissidia. Well, she was already in Dissidia Duodecim. So we'll find out, I guess, what's going on with that. Steam has a new feature. They have two new features, actually. One is a new feature and the other is a reaction to that feature. The actual feature is there are now tags that people can add to Steam games to make searching easier. So it could be things like adventure, visual novel, great soundtrack, or it could be things like boring, atmospheric, things like that. So, and then there are ridiculous tags that people come up with, like check your privilege, which I hate when people... First of all, if you're the type of person that ever has said that, I will punch you. Seriously, stop, unsubscribe. I hate you. When people say check your privilege, I go, yep, still there. But anyway, because of things like that, ridiculous things like that, people adding things that are ridiculous, irrelevant, or possibly offensive, there is, you can now flag tags for them to possibly remove and possibly take action. So there, it looks like, Steam is getting better every day. Just want to point that out. Here's some good news and bad news for Transformers fans. The good news is there is a new Transformers game coming out called Transformers Rise of the Dark Spark. The bad news is it's not developed by High Moon Studios, who made the excellent War for Cybertron and Fall of Cybertron. They also made Dark of the Moon, but we don't talk about that. But Rise of the Dark Spark is being made by Edge of Reality, which is they made Loadout, is one example of a game that they made. So we'll keep an eye on that to see how that goes. This is going to be on the consoles, PlayStation 3, PlayStation 4, Xbox One, Xbox 360, Wii U, 3DS, and PC. The PC version will be a strategy RPG game, which will be developed by Way Forward, which probably means it'll be a huge failure. But it'll probably be pretty good, but it'll probably be a huge failure, because that's what they do. They had a hit with DuckTales, though. I gotta admit that. So there you go. Okay, now if you've ever contributed to Kickstarter, I actually just got an email about this today. And, there's a lot of video game stuff there on Kickstarter, so I figured I would cover this. But if you've ever contributed to a Kickstarter, you might want to go on there and change your password, because they were hacked. And I'll tell you what happened. Actually, you know what I'm going to do? Is I'm going to read directly from the email that I got from Kickstarter. And this is what they put out here. On Wednesday night, law enforcement officials contacted Kickstarter and alerted us that hackers had sought and gained unauthorized access to some of our customers' data. Upon learning this, we immediately closed the security breach and began strengthening security measures throughout the Kickstarter system. No credit card data of any kind was accessed by hackers. There was no evidence of any unauthorized activity of any kind on your account. While no credit card data was accessed, some information about our customers was. Accessed information includes usernames, email addresses, mailing addresses, phone numbers, and encrypted passwords. Actual passwords were not revealed. However, it is possible for a malicious person with enough computing power to guess and crack an encrypted password, particularly a weak or obvious one. As a precaution, we strongly recommend that you change the password of your Kickstarter account and other accounts where you use this password. And they give instructions on how to do that, and of course they apologize. It's not exactly their fault, but they're sorry it happened. So I've contributed to Kickstarter. I contributed to Mighty Number 9, so this does concern me, and I think a lot of other people might have contributed to Mighty Number 9 or other things on there, so you might want to change your password. Alright, let's see, what else do I have here? If you're interested in getting into the Witcher series, all 3 games are free to play on Steam for this week, and that, oh, that ended today. Never mind that. Okay, never mind that. That ended today. But, okay, so the free week for the Witchers, but if you did that and you want to continue playing, they are heavily discounted. The Witcher Enhanced Edition is $2. Witcher 2 Assassins of Kings Enhanced Edition is $4. So you might want to check those out at very discounted prices. They're no longer free. I'm sorry about that. I have some good news for fans of Yasumi Matsuno, the creator of Final Fantasy Tactics and Vagrant Story. He is putting out an episodic tactical strategy game called Unsung Story Tale of the Guardians, which was funded through Kickstarter. The Kickstarter, they earned a lot of money. They earned $660,000, and this is going to be released for PC, Mac, Linux, iOS, and Android sometime in 2015. They didn't reach their goal, which was $1 million. Well, that was a stretch goal. They didn't reach a stretch goal of $1 million, which would have gotten it on the Vita. But it will be coming to PC, Mac, Linux, iOS, and Android. So I wish I would have known that. I would have kicked into that, actually. But once again, if you did kick into that, you might want to change your Kickstarter password. Just saying, you know. If you were a fan of the Zero Escape series, which you're probably not because this is one of a very popular series, but 9 hours, 9 persons, 9 doors, and Virtue's Last Rewards were some of them. Zero Escape 3 is delayed indefinitely. They are stalling the series due to low sales, so that's kind of bad news for you guys there, all 3 of you. If you're looking to get an Ouya, seriously, what's wrong with you? But if you're looking to get an Ouya, there's a good sale right now. For $85, you can get the Ouya console, the controller, and a $25 credit towards games. And if you want to check that out, you can go on over to stacksocial.com. They're doing this deal. So, I don't know. I think the Ouya is dumb, in my opinion, but if you're interested in this little Android console, and I mean little, the controller's bigger than the actual console, check it out for $85. Now, here's some good news for people who are Castlevania fans and also owners of the PlayStation 3 console, because it is coming to PlayStation 3 as well as Xbox 360 and Steam. But if you pre-order Lords of Shadows 2 on PlayStation Network, and you only have a couple of days there because this is coming out on the 25th, but if you do that, go on the PlayStation Network and pre-order Castlevania Lords of Shadows 2. Well, pre-order is the bad word. Preload would be the right word for that, but they're saying pre-order. You will get a free copy of the interim game, Castlevania Lords of Shadows Mirror of Fate HD. The original was on the 3DS. I played it. I enjoyed it very much. So you should check that out. Like I said, that's coming out on the 25th, the 28th in Europe, but you should definitely check that out if you want to preload it, basically buy the game, and then you're able to download it once it hits street date. So I would recommend you check that out if you haven't played Mirror of Fate. And even if you have, you get a free copy of it. I mean, if you had it for the 3DS, you might want to play the HD version or whatever. So just think about going on that. So, yeah. Ubisoft have done something interesting with Assassin's Creed. They have something new coming out called Assassin's Creed Arena, which is not a video game, but it's an actual board game. So that's intended for up to 4 players, and it looks pretty complicated, like one of those crazy games you see on board games. So, and it's recommended for gamers, board gamers, ages 15 and up due to the complex nature of the system. But if you're into board games and you're into Assassin's Creed, that's something that you might want to check out. Do I have a release date for that? Yes, I do. I have a release date February 26th. So you might want to check that out. It's kind of a shame that I only get to do the VMX show once a week because there's only a day, a day and a half left on this. If you go over to Humble Bundle, you can get the Humble Sid Meier bundle, which is huge. It contains Sid Meier's Civilization 3 Complete, Sid Meier's Civilization 4, the Complete Edition, Sid Meier's Ace Patrol, Sid Meier's Ace Patrol Pacific Skies, and Sid Meier's Railroads. If you pay more than the average, right now it's $9.93, you will get Sid Meier's Civilization 5, Sid Meier's Civilization 5 Gods and Kings, Sid Meier's Civilization 5 Scrambled Nations Map Pack, Sid Meier's Civilization 5 Scrambled Continents Map Pack, and Sid Meier's Pirates. And if you pay a full $15, you will also get Sid Meier's Civilization 5 Brave New World. And also, this includes the full soundtrack to Civilization 5, which is huge, and you get the Baba Yetu single, which was from Civilization 4. Only a day and a half left on that, so you might want to head over to humblebundle.com and check that out. That is an amazing value. It really is. You're getting a hell of a lot of content for a very, very low price if you just pay the $15. That's the easiest way to go about it. If you're a fan of NBA Jam, you might have recently got excited by a tweet that EA put out regarding NBA Jam using the NBA Jam Twitter handle. However, it turns out it was unauthorized use. They do not have any announcements to make about NBA Jam, so sorry. And my final bit of news, Game Boy Advance games are coming to the Virtual Console for Wii U, and this is going to start in April. Metroid Fusion, Mario & Luigi Superstar Saga, Yoshi's Island, Super Mario Advance 3 will be the first launch titles for the Game Boy Advance Virtual Console service. And like I said, that's happening in April. I'm saying, bring these games to the 3DS. Some of these are already available on the 3DS for people who had the, the Ambassador program, and they haven't released them commercially. I would buy some of these games for Virtual Console on the 3DS. But there you go. Anyway, that's it for the news. I'm going to get to the video game charts for this month, the sales charts. Like I said, it's a shorter episode because I don't have a guest this week. Remember, if you want to be on the show, all you have to do is contact me on Skype, set up a time with me. But let's go over to the software charts. These are the top 10 best-selling games for the week ending in February 8th. In Japan, the number one best-selling game was Kidou Senshi Gundam Extreme Versus Full Boost on the PlayStation 3. That sold a lot. 268,123 copies. Kirby Triple Deluxe on the 3DS sold 41,849 copies. Diablo 3 on the PlayStation 3 sold 40,611 copies. Makai Senki Disgaea Full Return on the PlayStation Vita sold 32,639 copies. Sengoku Bizarre 4 on the PlayStation 3 sold 31,673 copies. Yokai Watch on the 3DS sold 28,097 copies. Puzzle and Dragon Z on the 3DS sold 23,935 copies. Yoshin Toshi on the 3DS sold 22,776 copies. Amagami Ebcore Plus on the PlayStation Vita sold 22,539 copies. And Pocket Monsters X and Y versions, that's, god damn it. Firefox wants to update. Let me just put that off for now. Pocket Monsters X and Y version, that's Pokemon, that's on the 3DS, and that sold 16,212 copies. Over in Europe, the top-selling game of the week was Tomb Raider Definitive Edition on PlayStation 4. It sold 76,354 copies. FIFA 14 on the PlayStation 4 sold 33,300 copies. Gran Turismo 6 on the PlayStation 3 sold 31,058 copies. FIFA 14 on the PlayStation 3 sold 26,299 copies. Call of Duty Ghosts on the PlayStation 3 sold 25,159 copies. Minecraft on the Xbox 360 sold 24,140 copies. Grand Theft Auto 5 on the PlayStation 3 sold 24,079 copies. Tomb Raider Definitive Edition on Xbox One sold 21,976 copies. Pokemon X and Y versions on the 3DS sold 21,408 copies, and Call of Duty Ghosts on the Xbox 360 sold 18,792 copies. Moving on over to America. The top-selling game was Bravely Default Flying Fairy on the 3DS, sold 137,668 copies. Minecraft on the Xbox 360 sold 35,983 copies. Call of Duty Ghosts on the Xbox 360 sold 31,324 copies. Grand Theft Auto 5 on the Xbox 360 sold 25,983 copies. The same game for PlayStation 3 sold 24,194 copies. Back to Call of Duty Ghosts on the PlayStation 3. That sold 22,502 copies. The same game on PlayStation 4 sold 22,126 copies. Pokemon X and Y versions on the 3DS sold 19,166 copies. NBA 2K14 on the PlayStation 4 sold 18,954 copies. And Killzone Shadowfall on PlayStation 4 sold 18,432 copies. So globally, that Kidou Senshi Gundam Extreme vs. Full Boost was the top-selling game. Tomb Raider Definitive Edition did really well as well. Call of Duty Ghosts still hanging in there. Minecraft, Grand Theft Auto 5, Diablo 5, Pokemon. And FIFA did really well. So, let's move on to the systems. The top-selling system. Let's start in Japan. Now, keep in mind, for Japan, I still do not have the data for PlayStation 4 and Xbox One sales in Japan. Eventually I'm going to start getting this data, but so far I don't have it. But not counting those systems, in Japan the top-selling console was the 3DS with 48,616 of those sold. In second place, the Vita with PlayStation Vita, 17,175 sold. PlayStation 3, 10,589 sold. The Wii U, 7,807 sold. The PlayStation Portable, 2,833 of those sold. The Wii, 230 of those sold. I can't believe there are 230 people in Japan who still didn't have the Wii. 207 Xbox 360 sold. Kind of low sales in Japan overall, really. Actually, sales are just low this week in terms of systems. Not many people buying systems that week. Over in Europe, the top-selling console was the PlayStation 4. 57,055 of those were sold. The 3DS sold 36,228 units. The PlayStation 3 sold 19,640 units. The Xbox One sold 12,212 units. The PlayStation Vita sold 10,262 units. The Xbox 360 sold 10,129 units. The Wii U sold 8,848 units. The PSP, 6,950 units, and the Wii, 5,366 units. And here in America, the top-selling console was PlayStation 4, with 66,302 of those sold. The 3DS, 48,482 units sold. The Xbox One, 37,786 units sold. The PlayStation 3, 16,392 units sold. The Wii U, 16,718 units sold. Oh, I'm sorry. Above both Wii U and PlayStation 3 was the Xbox 360, 17,306 units sold. I missed that somehow. So what's next then? PlayStation Vita, 5,260 of those sold. The Wii, 6,263 of those sold. And the PSP, 1,452 sold. So overall, globally, the big winner was the 3DS. The PlayStation 4 very close behind. If you remember last week, the PlayStation 4 was on top for the first time ever, beating the 3DS. Although I think it is beating the 3DS right now. The 3DS is still doing extremely strong, but PlayStation 4 must be beating it because I don't have sales for Japan. PlayStation 3 is after that, then the Xbox One, the Vita, the Wii U, the 360, the PSP, and the Wii. So, that is the show. If you want to be on the show, come at me at Skype. My name's NecroVMX, and we'll set up a time. Leave me your questions and comments. And as I always say, VMX out.